in the last video, we looked at your early childhood years, and we got up to the stage of you getting a job in Blackpool, and that was your first job. Then the next sort of phase of your life was going to Canada.
Yes.
So I think you were 16?
16, yes. I went to my brother and his wife in Canada.
In Canada.
Toronto, yes.
So one brother had gone out. Had any others gone at that stage, or was just him?
It was just him at the time, but then others went later on.
Yeah. And your parents followed, didn't they, eventually?
Yeah, eventually, my parents, yes.
Did you go out? What work did you have then, first of all?
Office work, which was, as far as I'm concerned, being an artistic type of person, it was extremely boring. But because I remember walking through the local park and finding it extremely difficult to get out of to go to the office, and these very boring jobs.
Yeah. You did some au pairing, though, I found.
Yes. In fact, the first thing I did was to go out to as an au pair job, and that was quite an eye opener as well. So
I think they liked the idea of an English au pair.
Yes, that's right. Yes, and I had a couple of au pair jobs, and one of the ladies, because my name was Warburton Adamson, sort of assumed that I was from some very
aristocratic
background.
Like a double-barreled name.
Yes,
yeah,
which was quite amusing, and I didn't correct her.
So you did the au pair jobs and then some office work, and then you went to you moved to New York to do some further studies in art.
Yes.
Yeah.
So fashion design and fashion illustration and so on.
Do you remember how long you were there for?
It's about a 3-year course, I think it was.
Yeah. And that's where you met Daddy?
Yes. Yes. He was at the university there, NYU, I think.
Yeah. He was doing his postgraduate studies.
Yes.
So then after that you came back to the UK, and later on he joined you here, and you were married at Our Lady of Victories
in Kensington.
Kensington.
Yeah.
And I suppose this is where the Catholic story sort of begins, I suppose, in some way. Yes. A son of Goa. Obviously, their Catholics. He was a Catholic. We have St. Francis Xavier to thank for that.
Yes.
And so you were marrying a Catholic, and you had to agree to bring up
the children Catholic at that time.
Yes.
And I think, I don't know, I mentioned it in the first piece, but I asked the priest whether Catholics were Christians. That's how much I knew about Catholics.
Yes.
Because I've been kind of taught that they were undesirables.
Yes, to be suspected.
Yeah, but I had no animosity or any, prejudice myself at all.
Yes.
None.
Yeah, although you'd been brought up in a family that, it might be too extreme to say they were anti-Catholic, but they were suspicious of Catholics.
Yes, they were nervous, and not sure. Mind you, as it turns out, the Salvation Army didn't have any of the sacraments, so they obviously didn't understand that background.
True.
So they were victims of their history as well.
Yeah.
So
a sort of a residue, sort of suspicion and
fear, really.
Fear.
Yes. You see, I just wanted to do God's will, and I just wanted to be sure I was in the right place, not in something that wasn't right.
So you, as a result of that promise that you made to the priest, subsequently I came along.
You were baptised before I was.
Yes, 1966. At the Church of English Martyrs in Reading, which was where you were. We lived in those early years. And I was baptised there. And obviously taking that promise seriously, you realised that you had to have
some information.
Some information.
Yes, yes.
And so you obviously approached the parish priest.
And a lovely nun who was there.
Yeah, and she began
Sister Eyre.
Instructing you.
Yes, yes.
No, it was Sister Julian, wasn't it?
Oh, Sister Julian first of all.
First, yes.
Right,
That was Sister Eyre was later.
Yes, that's right.
But Sister Julian began instructing you, and from you mentioned in the book I Am Divine Innocence to Dudley that it wasn't that you had a particular desire to become Catholic.
No.
You just had a great desire to be baptized.
Baptized, yes.
As a result of this instruction. Mm-hmm. They thought they were giving you instruction. I'm not sure you fully.
No, I really wanted to be baptized. I just had that fixed in my mind, really.
Yes. Yeah.
So, which was very useful because without baptism, it's hardly a Catholic.
That's the gateway, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the gateway to all the graces.
Yeah.
So interesting that you were given that desire.
Yes, and at the baptism, they asked me what saint's name did you want, and I just said very simply, I don't know any saints. Mm. So I don't think they realise the extent of my ignorance, and that's why I would really warn people bringing people into the Catholic Church. You have no idea how little information or how warped the information might be. So you really have to really deal with spiritual children and don't assume that because someone's an adult that they know all sorts of things that they absolutely do not know.
So a few years later, after my birth, you're baptized and confirmed, and this was sort of late 60s, and then we had a sort of period when I was growing up,
but there came a time when I told you I was riding through the countryside.
Oh, you didn't mention that.
Yes,
no.
that was quite important because I never forgot that voice. As I was riding through the countryside, there was a whole field of corn blowing in the wind, and I had a very clear and loud voice that said, "I am the bread of life." And I thought, I want to find that bread wherever it is and eat it. So I was still that ignorant about the teachings of the church.
Do you recall that being before your baptism or after your baptism?
I don't remember now.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. Except I felt this tremendous desire. I think it was after, yes. I think it was after. But I still obviously did not understand the
about the Eucharist?
Yeah, about the Eucharist. And then we moved to this area, and I remember taking you to church, and stumbling on benediction, and was so alarmed by benediction, and the long robes and the smoke and the incense, and I thought, I better get my child out of here as fast as possible.
So that was my early religious formation. I was gathered up and whisked out of benediction.
Exactly. You've just got to be safe on these matters and be absolutely sure what's going on first.
Well, there's a turnaround now. I can't get enough of benediction.
Nor me. I think, benediction, wonderful. No. Now that you know what it is.
Yeah.
And the tremendous blessing of God is himself. It's wonderful. So.
I remember growing up in the sort of 70s and we were learning about our Catholicism by copying those around us.
Yes, yeah. Because I remember riding later on riding to church with you and things like that, and going to various things. A lot of which I didn't really understand.
And of course, you had no concept also of sending us to Catholic schools.
No.
So I went to the local C of E school.
Yes, yes.
Where I learnt the Our Father with the doxology on the end.
In the end, yes, yes.
And I never forget to this day in Mass, it was sort of, we stopped and deliver us from evil. And I, in full voice, continued, "For thine be the glory," and everyone looking around thinking, "Gosh,
who is this
imposter here?" And I never forgot it to this day. So I knew,
there was something different.
I knew that there was something lacking in my spiritual education.
There's a blind leading the blind,
Yes.
really.
So, I mean, but you mentioned as well how you did pick up CTS booklets. So you obviously
yes,
had
at the back of the church.
Mm.
Yes, and sort of, I was really told by a Jesuit priest to start reading a page of the Catechism each day, the Penny Catechism, and that was illuminating, really amazing.
Well, I mean, in those early years after you were baptized, I mean, did you have a rule of life of prayer or any kind of structure to your religious life at all?
Not a lot, really. I began to read the lives of the saints, a few saints, because I came across those leaflets at the back of the church, and then that led me to maybe a bigger book. I found a book in Goa, probably the Saint Saviour, I'd imagine. I can't remember the exact book, but I know that it drew me on in the life of saints, bit by bit.
I mean, we didn't have much of a prayer life at home.
No.
But, I mean, I knew we used to say prayers at night.
Yes,
didn't we?
yes.
Yeah, our night prayers.
Yeah.
They were very basic.
Yes, very.
Yeah.
And slightly with a Protestant leaning and things,
Yeah. I think also, if I recall, you were quite interested in spiritual things. I don't think you had a particular concept as well of having to go to a Catholic church on a Sunday.
No.
It wasn't there in the foremost. I remember us being away once, and you said, well, we ought to go to church, and we couldn't find a Catholic church. And you sort of said, well, we'll go to the Anglican one. And
you do the best you can.
Yeah, and I remember sitting there thinking, this doesn't feel quite right.
Oh, good.
So, sort of the Catholic, something was there.
Yeah, some Catholic thing was growing in.
So I kind of had this intuition that this didn't feel quite right. But you were sort of thinking, well, we just do the best we can, kind of thing. Under the circumstances.
Yes.
There wasn't that strong feeling that we definitely had to find a Catholic church.
But it slowly dawns on you, the real presence. This is what happens. And then bit by bit, with the visions of they were really a visual catechism. When you go to churches, you saw when the Blessed Sacrament was held up, it was like the sun coming out, and the glory of the sun rising, and because I didn't link with the Son of God, sort of. So it was very beautiful. And the same with the benediction. When you see I would see a sweep of light. Mind you, I began to think that everybody else was seeing the same thing, And in fact, I remember thinking, what is wrong with these Catholics? Look what's going on there. Why aren't they sort of prostrating themselves on the floor like the Muslims or something? Here is God Himself. So it was the visual and tactile. Instruction, really. It was a real visual catechism. And being in church one day and seeing the child Jesus in the sanctuary area when the scriptures were being read and so on, and the Psalms and so on. And then him coming towards me and lifting up his arms and saying, carry me. And then having the experience of I had children, so I knew exactly what a child felt like. And this little soft arm around your neck. And he said, I am the bread of life. And pointing to the Eucharist. And then saying, I am this word, as the priest had read the scriptures earlier on before the Mass began, the consecration started. So those were very visual things. And I began to see the connections, what they were, what they meant. So it was very exciting and very beautiful.
No, I suppose our Lord is teaching in the way that you relate to, which is pictures.
Yes, and you're very visual. So,
But we'll develop that in the next video. So we've kind of come to the point where our Lord and Our Lady had to kind of rescue you from your ignorance.
Yes.
You when we were growing up, I was growing up, we didn't have really a Catholic formation because you didn't know enough.
What to do.
Yeah. But our Lord had a plan. So,
I don't know how you got a Catholic teaching, really.
well,
grace was really working for
I
you.
got the Catholic teaching. It came after, as a result of you responding to what our Lord was doing for you.
Yes, yes.
And that was a gradual thing.
Because you didn't even go to a secondary Catholic school, did you?
I didn't go to a secondary, no. But I do recall us going to Mass in the morning, the 7 o'clock Mass at the Manor House Convent. And it was,
which was on this ground.
Which is on this ground here that our Lord has chosen to be the place where He wants there to be a shrine for a centre point for the message of divine innocence. I was always an early riser. Mornings, yeah, you weren't. But
that was always hard.
Mornings were great for me, and so for me, spiritually, growing up, coming to this 7 o'clock Mass was always something quite spiritual for me. And that early morning experience of getting up, going to the 7 o'clock Mass, had an impression on me. But again, I didn't really know much about my faith. But I think I was always a child who was open to spiritual things. That was always there. But I suppose my coming to a deeper faith and a deeper knowledge of my Catholic faith was through the message of divine innocence.
Yes, yes.
But that's a separate story.
Yes,
we have to put that on a different video.
Yes.
So we'll leave it there until we pick up about how the messages began.
You must admit it was quite an adventure, wasn't it? And continues to be so.
In hindsight, at the time, it could be quite terrifying.
For both of us.